Hey everyone, what is going on? This is Dorrani from VG247 and I'm joined by Tom and Alex. Say hello, boys.
Hello.
What is going on? We have just watched, well, the whole world has just watched Microsoft, Xbox and Bethesda's showcase. What are our general thoughts and impressions, guys? I personally think that was a very good way to do a conference. Just show game.
It's the best showcase for my money that they've had since the 360 era. I think the last one I remember being that good was whatever the one was that opened with Metal Gear Solid 4. I think Metal Gear Solid 5 rather, and I think I just think it's the best. It's the best one they've had in ages. A good spread of like third party games and first party games. Lots of stuff, most of it coming to Game Pass on launch day, right? I think,
Which is nuts.
27 of the 30 games they showed, right, all coming to Game Pass on day one. Some new announcements, some CG teasers of bits and pieces. I just think it sort of hit all the right notes. There's definitely still issues with Microsoft and what they've got, and we can talk about that a little bit in this, but I think that was by far and away the best showing they've had in years.
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree with what Alex is saying. It felt like the only proper E3 thing we've had so far at E3, and possibly the only proper thing we will have with like that level of like excitement attached to it. I can't help but feel a little bit disappointed, which I think is natural for any E3 showcase where you don't get to see the things that you really wanted to see. And I think they will. Well, like I think it's the classic case of publisher shows off thing, gets people excited for it, and then doesn't talk about it again for 2 years. So you get all these games that they showed off last E3, and stuff like Hellblade 2, for example, which has been around for a long time, and we still haven't seen much on at all. And it's like there was still too many CG trailers for my money. There was just not enough game. The only we saw, we'll skip ahead, I guess, to like Forza Horizon 5, which was like that's great. I'm really excited. That's coming out this year. I think that looked amazing. That was the only real proper. Here's a new game. You didn't know about it. Well, you kind of did, but you wouldn't officially know about it. And here's
so you want more breakdowns?
No, here's a good look at this game. We didn't really get much. This is the next gen console. It can do this. Apart from that, I mean, we knew about Flight Simulator. That looks brilliant as well, obviously. But apart from those two, and a bit of here and there. I mean, stuff like Stalker 2 looks nice, but I mean, I'm not sold on that game being incredible yet, so we'll wait and see. And other things look good, but I'm still like, where's the proper next gen stuff? I think we're still waiting to see a lot of that.
Yeah, I think it was a good showcase. I get what you mean, where they should have like broken certain features down to showcase. Oh my god, this is why it's on Xbox Series X, because it's so powerful and amazing. Forza is okay, I get it. What was your like standout game like for you guys? What was your this definitely caught my attention. Mine was Halo Infinite.
The Halo multiplayer looks crisp, man. It looks absolutely bloody awesome. It looks, and it's like, how do you elevate Halo? What's the answer to that? How do you do more with Halo? And they've been struggling with that for 2 games now, and it seems like the answer they've hit upon with this is just try and make it more reactive. So you have the grappling hook, and you have those moments where you're throwing a grenade and picking up something as it flies, grappling hook weapons from afar to pick them up. It just looks so dynamic and so sick. And I am 1000% on board with it. Yeah. I just want to say, I'm really like pleased to see that it's interesting. We're getting Forza Horizon again, and usually Forza and Horizon alternate, and this year should have been a normal Forza year. But for whatever reason, we're getting Horizon 5, and I'm not complaining about that because, to be honest, Horizon's better.
I definitely prefer Horizon to the Sim series, but that's just because that's more my style of like racing. I prefer the arcade stuff. I mean, that looks great. I mean, they showed that off really nicely, I think.
Even some of the stuff they announced that is very early, so just to quickly touch on them, like the Avalanche game, what was that called? Contraband. It's just a CG trailer. Doesn't really tell us much, but we know what sort of games Avalanche makes. They did Just Cause, they did the Mad Max game, right? And so I think, them making that sort of game for Microsoft is really interesting and really cool. I look forward to seeing that. Also interesting, Avalanche, I'm not one of these people who cheers these on because I think they're broadly speaking a bad thing. But Avalanche and independent studio, and you do wonder if Microsoft is looking at the thing they're making together now and going, should we buy these guys?
Because that's a proper exclusive, right? It's not just a timed console
It is
exclusive.
an Xbox Game Studios game. And I don't think this is the first deal, the last deal rather, of its kind, where we're going to see a developer like Avalanche make a first-party Xbox game in partnership with Xbox Game Studios without them acquiring the studio or whatever. I think there's a couple more of those to come in the future. Also want to say Outer Worlds 2 be really interesting. You know, I'm the RPG nerd, right? And poor old the poor guys at Obsidian, you know, they were purchased and it was like, we're going to be Microsoft's big RPG studio. And then Microsoft bought Bethesda.
Yep.
And got
That's
Elder
sad.
Scrolls and Fallout. And obviously, so they're working on Avowed. That's still going on. We didn't see that today. And I'm sure it'll be interesting because they now have the task of differentiating Avowed from Elder Scrolls, where when they announced it, it was clearly their take on an Elder Scrolls game just in the Pillars of Eternity universe. Anyway, Outer Worlds was obviously a smaller scale Fallout style game. Like, it was a bit shorter, a bit simpler. The scale, the scope was more restrained, which I think really worked. So hopefully Outer Worlds 2 isn't just going to make it Fallout big. I really hope that they actually stick to the scale they had in the first game, which might mean we might see it a little bit sooner as well.
It's a good trailer too. It was one of the
Yeah,
most
it's funny.
entertaining trailers. Yeah.
Very
Again,
honest and
that's
very
another one though. Like, it was just a CG trailer. I realized that game's early, and they've only just been doing DLC for the first games to like last month, was it, that got released? So I know I can't show everything all the time with gameplay stuff, but I think there was just a little bit too much. And here's a thing, and it's just CG.
Well, I think that's one of the things, right, about this situation we're now in, where Microsoft is now in, where it's a little bit too soon for the studio acquisitions and studios they set up to really start paying off dividends. And it's like, it's too soon after Gears 5 for the Coalition, and the Initiative are too young to show Perfect Dark yet, and all that sort of stuff. Fable's not far enough along. And so we're in that sort of weird treading water moment where, let's be honest, there was a lot of CG announcements, and there were a lot of nice new footage or nice new features or whatever of games that are already out. So like Flight Simulator coming to Xbox, looks fabulous, cool expansion pack, great, but actually nothing really new there, right? And so I think that speaks to fair play to them. There's a lot in it. There's a lot of content in this, despite the fact that actually I don't think we're going to see the payoff, the new Microsoft, until next year probably. And that's why like one of the biggest announcements was probably like that Sea of Thieves expansion. No, genuinely, because
Looks
Sea of
good,
Thieves is a
to be honest.
massive game for Microsoft. It's got 10 million players or something stupid like that, and obviously Pirates of the Caribbean is a massive series. I have conflicted thoughts about I don't know, all this stuff around Johnny Depp has not really been fully resolved, I guess you'd say. And as we know, Disney are moving away from that character and from him in the next Pirates of the Caribbean film they're working on now. So it's interesting that they're using Jack Sparrow despite that. But that's interesting because Sea of Thieves is not really a story heavy game, but it looked like that is going to be a story driven sort of expansion, which I'm really interested in if that's the case.
Yeah, I think that's good for the game. I think it should pull new people in and get them interested, and then they can see what else it has to offer once they've seen that. But yeah, I think generally I was pleased. We haven't even mentioned Starfield yet. I mean, they opened with Starfield. I was a little, again, I sound really negative, but it's like, I know that game's a way off still, but it was like the smallest of glimpses at what that was. And it was to kick it off, because everyone expected to see it. And it's great. They confirmed what everyone knew, that it was Xbox exclusive and PC, and it looks decent, but there wasn't much to take away.
We don't know what it is, frankly.
Yeah,
like we know that it's got guns. We know that it's an RPG. We know that it's going to have space flight and stuff like that.
There's a robot thing.
Yeah, but we don't know anything about what it's going to be. There have been some leaks, so it's like if you look around, there's been some asset leaks and stuff like from development where it's like obvious that there's going to be like ship customization and stuff like that. But yeah, they need to tell us what that game actually is. I will say, But Todd Howard, man, I know you have it because you've worn it at previous events. You have an Amiga Speedmaster, the first watch on the moon, and you don't wear it to reveal your space game. Tragic. Sorry,
that a
that's my watch moment.
Yeah. I wanted to just because we need to speak about this. Xbox Game Pass as a whole is
It's ridiculous.
shaping up to be something incredible.
It's great. I think it's unfortunate that a couple of their big announcements got leaked, because Back 4 Blood is a fairly good get for them on Game Pass. That's the kind of game that is going to do really well. It's co-op online experience, so that should do well on Game Pass. Yakuza, another, like, if you like Yakuza, just get Game Pass. I mean, it's got everything now, right? So I think those are two great games, and clearly they're pushing that a lot. I think everyone was waiting there when they showed off a couple of those other games. Like, is the Game Pass logo going to appear? Is it going to appear? And it didn't on Diablo, it didn't on Battlefield, and it didn't on Far Cry. But I think
there were free
everything else,
games, right?
Yeah, I think everything else was Game Pass, and that's pretty great. Like, I know some people are down on it, and we talked about this before, I think, in the kind of pre-show video. But I mean, it's just brilliant, isn't it? I mean, how can you not, as a pure value,
incredible value?
Yeah, it's just amazing.
And I'm pleased to see they're adding, it's great Yakuza Like a Dragon is in it. It's great that Ayuden Chronicles is going into it. I think, just to segue, just because I mentioned that game there, there's still obviously clearly a problem with Microsoft and Asian-made games, as in there were barely any in this presentation. And you're in this Microsoft show was amazing, but we're in this scenario where Square Enix is Sony's hoovering up Square Enix exclusives, going and giving Sony's going and giving Square packets of cash to get Final Fantasy 16 and stuff like that. And that is probably the one thing where I think of every genre and every type of game and every niche, and Microsoft is killing it. And it's like, this is one of the reasons the Bethesda buy was so smart, because Microsoft were weak in things like immersive simi games and RPGs, and straight away they got a shitload of RPGs and the best immersive sim maker in the world. But they just do not have Asian games. And so, like, in this, we did have Yakuza, which obviously is old and out, but great that it's in Game Pass. Everyone should try it. But like, Ayuden Chronicle is great. It looks beautiful. It's from the creators of Suikoden, where one of those games is one of the best Japanese RPGs ever made. But it's a multi-platform game, and they've just got it in Game Pass. They need to do something in Japan, in my opinion, and in Asia in general, because there's this is the nice thing. It's expanding. There's more studios and stuff in Korea and stuff now than there ever have been. So yeah, that is the one thing where I left this and I was like, this is still something they seriously have to work on, and they know it. Phil Spencer said this in interviews and stuff. To be fair, they do know.
Yeah. I think we missed. I think this showcase, you did miss a bit of the usual stuff. Like, there was no Capcom, there's no Activision, and usually, like, traditionally, like, that was the thing, right? It changed after a while, but it used to be at the Xbox showcase, you'd get Call of Duty, and you'd get
you would get that lip service from each major publisher. So you'd get a Capcom game, you'd get a Square Enix game. We didn't get either of those. So it is that thing of and then Sega, we just got Yakuza rather than anything.
Capcom's got their own showcase, right?
They're going to do something.
They're doing something, but I think it's not. I wouldn't call it as much as a showcase. But they're sort of streaming. But it is that thing of just when we're talking about where Xbox is at, and it's not a knock on them, because like I said, they've just had the best showcase they've had in ages, and I think it's been better than the last couple of Sony showcases as well. But when you look at it, it's like the reason that you don't necessarily get Capcom at this sort of thing is because they just go by default sign a deal with Sony. So it's like Sony with a Resident Evil marketing partner for Resi 8, for instance, and stuff. So yeah, that's something they need to address.
One thing I want to know is, what did the developer of Party Animals give to Microsoft to get such a focus?
Hey, that game looks great. That game looks great, man.
It looks
good. I'm a big fan of Gang Beasts, but
it's like it even got a high mention in the end montage. It was like, here's Starfield, and then like a couple of tiles later, Party Animals. It's like,
but they want to show that they have. They want to show that they have a breadth of titles, right? Because this is something Microsoft's had a problem with. In the original Xbox and the 360 era, Microsoft was shooters and dude bro games, and that was it, right? And I know people will jump in the comments now and say, F you, Viva Pinata exists and stuff. And I know, but that stuff was very few and far between. And in my opinion, it never got the marketing push and the attention it deserved. And it feels like by putting games like that front and center, Psychonauts also, right? They are making a statement about what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But then they've
Slime
still got
Rancher
lots of adult
2.
games.
Slime
Slime
Rancher
Rancher,
2.
yeah, I'm well up for that. That looks great. I mean, the original was brilliant.
I don't know. Like, there was a lot of those. Like, the spread of games was very good, I thought. And there's some really interesting looking games, some very impressive looking games, and like the fact that most of those you would just be able to play Game Pass, don't have to worry about the cost or anything like that. Like, that's a big thing at the moment, right? Like, Ratchet just came out on PS5, but it's 70 quid. You don't have to worry about that. Really,
yeah.
I mean, I still think, like, because I've just come off of playing a lot of that game on PS5, and it's incredible. It looks amazing, and I'm like, has Microsoft shown anything to kind of suggest that they can do that kind of stuff? And
well, I will say, Forza looks like one of the best games.
But Forza looks amazing, right? And it has looked amazing every single time they've made a game, and there's no question that game will be great. Like, I love Horizon; it's brilliant. But if you're someone who laps up the Sony exclusive single player stuff, I'm still like, is that a thing that Microsoft can deliver? Are they able to do that anymore? And I'm still waiting for that kind of, wow, that's an incredible like showcase game that is in that kind of genre, so to speak, where it's like it's the single player. They're going to show off for 10 minutes of gameplay, and people are just going to like.
We will see, but I wonder if Perfect Dark is going to be their attempt. I wonder if that studio they're going to try and make them their Naughty Dog almost. I wonder. I think it'd be a good fit. But when you look at this presentation now, I know they don't have that one big game, but lots of just like impressive little hits, like that Shredder's snowboarding game looks great.
That game,
shout out to Age of Empires, which looks brilliant.
Yeah, there was that game which I wasn't sure if it was like a renamed version of another game. Is it like Repaired or it wasn't Replicant, but it was very Blade Runner-y. Replaced.
Looks amazing. Like,
it looks great. I wasn't sure if there was another game they showed off a few years ago that looked so similar style-wise. I wasn't sure if they'd renamed it, but that looks great. And there's a lot of those little games. Well, I say little, there's a disservice to them. They're just great looking games that aren't blockbuster AAA. And there's stuff like Ascent coming in July. They show that off again, Game Pass, etc. And there's a lot of that stuff. I mean, we're talking about. I've been a bit down on games not looking great. Like that Flight Simulator bit just looked incredible, right? And the Top Gun stuff looks really cool. And that again, like Game Pass, I would never buy that game, but it's in Game Pass, so I will download it and hopefully I might enjoy it. But
gives games a lot of chances. Gives you chances to play new games.
Can we talk about the and one more thing, which was the Arcane game, which I've forgotten it, Dorrani. What's the name?
Redfall.
What do
Arcane
mean?
Austin.
I'm going to bang on about this, but I think showing off a new Arcane game was great. I think something that, particularly because their current one is tied to PS5 at the moment, and we won't see it on Xbox probably until some point late next year, I'd have thought. But again, like they showed it off and it was a big thing. But when you end a showcase on, and here's one more thing, and it's not an established IP, and people are going to get excited for it. I feel like another CG trailer was a bit of a letdown, because you kind of think, what's it going to be? Is it going to be Fable? Are they going to show Fable? Are they going to show Perfect Dark? Are they going to show something that like Everwild? They're going to show something that people are going to get sort of excited for instantly. And this game, no doubt, will be good. Like Arcane make good games, and the CG trailer for what it was interesting, and the whole concept looks quite cool. But I think as an end to the showcase, it just felt a bit, that's cool. But I mean,
I think it almost oversells, and I don't mean this in a bad way because they are one of the best studios going, but it almost oversells how much the general public who aren't on video games Twitter and Reset Era and stuff like that, how much the Arcane name would mean to those people. It's like things like Dishonored and Prey are incredible games, but they're not like these massive sellers. And so that's interesting. What I'll say is, when you say to me, as somebody did before this conference, oh, there's an Arcane game and it's about vampires. What I envisioned was very, very different from
Yep.
what is expressed in that trailer, in that it almost looks like a bit Left 4 Dead-y, in that you can play it alone, they did say, but it's this co-op thing. And so I'll be very curious to see how that pans out. But I think the lovely thing is Arcane is a multi-studio studio.
Yeah.
You know, there's more than one Arcane, and they're making multiple games at once. And we'll see. You know, this existing doesn't preclude another immersive sim from existing, or a Dishonored 3 from existing, or whatever. So, I'm excited and interested, but again, it's too early to get much. But again, that's another game, right, where they said 2022 at the end, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're looking at this, and it's like Microsoft's 2022 is pretty stacked in the sense that you've got Starfield, you've got the games that are almost certainly going to be shown in 2022, even if they won't release. Like at that point, this time next year, they're probably going to have to put up and show a bit of Perfect Dark and stuff. And that's what I mean about this was a great show, but I think actually when we're talking about the best from Microsoft, the killer results, that's going to come in a year. And that's when we're going to really start to see all the moves they've been making pay off big dividends.
Yeah. I think in general it was a really good showcase, but you are right. This is sort of to tide us over. And I think there's enough games shown to definitely tide us over until this time next year, minimum. Definitely.
I think it was good that like Halo, we mentioned Halo, and they showed a little glimpse of kind of the campaign a tiny bit, I guess. Didn't really get a sense of like the game as such, but we got a bit of the visuals and it looked nice. I don't think anyone can look at that and go, it's horrible anymore. It looked decent. And still, I mean, that's coming to Xbox One still. They didn't drop that quietly or anything. It's still there. So, I mean, that's at least they've committed to that. And that's like, hopefully that'll be good now. They've had an extra year to work on it. Fingers crossed it'll be good. The multiplayer looks great. So you've got that this Christmas. You've got Forza. We've got Flight Sim in the summer. We've got Psychonauts 2 in the summer. So the lineups, it's decent.
And they're already hitting their target, right? Where there was a briefing thing, for press and stuff last week. And in it, Phil Spencer sort of said, we want to aim to do 4 first-party games a year, 1 a quarter, at least 1 big first-party game a quarter, releasing and going into Game Pass. And so even though, like we have said and banged on about, there's a lot of games that we're waiting to see more of, where it's too soon, they're already hitting that target now. And interesting also, I want to say that the 2 Arcane games that are out this year, they didn't talk about at all, even though they are on PlayStation. And the thing we still don't know about that is they are on PC as well. Will the PC versions go into Game Pass straight away, or will that be precluded by whatever contract they have with Sony? And we haven't talked about the biggest announcement. We haven't talked about the most important announcement.
Battlefield.
The Battlefield looks sick, and Battlefield looks sick. And me and Sharif did a video where we gushed about it. I highly suggest you check that out. Watch the gameplay trailer if you haven't seen it. It looks amazing. But at the very end, they had one last little stinger with one last little announcement after the Vampire game. And they're making the mini fridge. Everyone said the Xbox Series X looked like a fridge, and they're making a real mini fridge in the shape of the Xbox Series X. And it's out in time for Christmas, so there's your AAA Christmas release.
I need a fridge actually. Can they? Are they going to do the big? I know they set out to some influencers the big fridge, didn't they? But I guess I think Snoop got one. Did I can't remember. But
this is actually going to be for sale. This is a saleable product, and it looks like it will hold maybe. I'm looking at it now. It looks like it'll maybe hold 8-10 small cans. So that's all right.
That's cute.
Yeah, I like it. Microsoft's got a sense of humor right now, right? Again, especially when Sony often feels so po-faced. It's nice.
Yeah. And like at least like I think E3, as much as it's like it's a bit like inside baseball, and it's like people are into it, know about it. Everyone else just probably doesn't even know it exists. It is nice to get an actual 90-minute presentation of stuff that's just to get excited about. Like I think, as much as E3 has had its issues, I do really enjoy these kind of showcases, these presentations, and the fact we haven't got one from Sony this week or this period is a bit disappointing. Nintendo are going to have their thing next week, which is great. But I think, at least Xbox is delivering on that front.
Most definitely. I hope PlayStation do announce something like after Nintendo finishes theirs, that they say, "Hey, ours is actually next week as well." I can't remember what they did last year, but
I understand why. I understand why Sony doesn't want to do E3. They want to get away from that noise, but also I do think something is lost. There's something very powerful in terms of the mainstream perception, and mainstream media sit up and pay attention in a way that they don't when it's just a random conference out in the middle of nowhere. It makes it, you have that feeling of it's a holiday. It's a video game Christmas. And so it's a shame, yeah. But I think Microsoft has stepped up to the plate, and I think this proves. I saw some people say, I don't get the Bethesda acquisition. It's a lot of money to spend for what you get. But already you see this showcase and you're like, okay, I get it. And no more acquisitions, right? And there were a lot of insiders with good track records saying that there are acquisitions either in progress or already happened quietly behind the scenes. And if that is true, which I think these people aren't often wrong about this sort of stuff, they didn't show any. And I think that was deliberate because they wanted to focus down on look at Bethesda and look at what we've got now.
Yeah, agreed. To be honest, I've got nothing more to say about Microsoft and Xbox and Bethesda. I think it was good. It was nice enough that tied us over, as I said before. Any closing statements on this one, guys?
Halo multiplayer looks crisp. It looks sick. That's it.
Yeah, thanks for that one, Alex. You said that with a lot of enthusiasm.
I'm not going to say it looks.
Look, as someone who loves Halo, someone who loves Halo, but in particular was at peak love with it, Halo 3 ODST sort of time. I just look at that and I'm just like, this is the Halo I've wanted, man. Yeah. This is the Halo I've wanted.
Yeah, I would. I can't say something sounds sick without it won't come across authentic. But I think clearly for me, Forza Horizon 5 just looks amazing. I think that was the best thing they showed off by a long way. It just looks incredible. And I like, as much as I kind of ripped into Alex a bit for his love of Flight Sim when he was gushing about it a few months ago.
Oh, it's great.
That looks so good. I could see myself just flying around, looking out the windows for quite a while, and it looks so nice. I mean, I think those two showed off we are actually getting some proper next-gen visuals, even though we're not seeing them in sort of AAA blockbuster single-player adventure games. But maybe those will come.
Yeah. At least Microsoft have you look at their first-party stuff as well, and every single one of those games is very different from all the others. Whereas there is that sort of criticism of Sony that is totally valid about their lineup. Ratchet is a very different case, obviously, but their lineup feeling a bit homogenous, and Microsoft clearly do not have that problem, which is great.
Most definitely. Right. So, to summarize, if you don't have Xbox Game Pass, you are at a big loss here. You are shooting yourself in your foot if you own an Xbox or a PC or a PC and don't have Xbox Game Pass. Definitely, it is looking huge this year and next year, adding to the ever-growing arsenal. Yeah. This has been Dorrani, Tom, and Alex from VG247.com. Thank you for listening. Follow us on all of the social medias and all of that jazz. We're going to have a write-up on the website as well. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you know exactly when we post more. Let us know what you think of the games that you saw in the showcase as well. Peace out, everyone.
Later.
See ya.